Welcome everybody, bienvenidos. First of all, this is not a webinar, this is a conversation. We're here to talk with you, with our friends, with our community. So that's really the vibe that we want to set for today. So welcome to Present Like a Master, how to connect with your audience and achieve your business goals while having fun. Matt, I know you don't do this often, so this is going to be a fun time. I'm José Caballer. I'm the executive producer of this experience. I'm really excited to be presenting and being the hype man for a dear friend that I've known for 20 years. I've worked on the biggest projects in the last 9 years. I'm a journey from 2017, sorry, to now. The biggest projects I've done, I brought Jeff in to help me design, a fellow Taurus brother. We get shit done. The presentation that you're going to see today, we've been working on it for a bit, but it's basically a 3-hour jam session with the tools that you're about to witness. So anyway, without further ado, because I'm only the hype man, the star is Jeff Silva.
No, thank you, Jose. And thank you everyone for joining. I'm super grateful to be here and kicking off this webinar pre-course with you all. This means a lot to me. It's great to reunite with Jose. We've been close collaborators. We actually went to Art Center together, and fun fact, Jose was one of my senior teachers. I just came back from Razorfish, where he's basically employee number 5 or 10 at Razorfish.
13.
13. Okay, close. And I had the fortune to take one of his classes as he was segueing into the world for his own thing. So excited about that, but also just excited to share what I've learned, the struggles, the sort of frameworks and the tactics that have gotten me today, where I love to present. Like, this is one of the
Work
things.
on a lot of corporate stuff. Like your logo wall is like massive.
Yeah, well, I'm again super grateful, and I think I've had the fortune to work on very large enterprises, J&J, Nestle, Amazon. My last job, you see Sarah, Lily, amazing talent as well at Amazon. But I also learned how to be very agile working with venture, right? Startup. We're getting funding, pitch decks. And so I saw the extremes, right? And I think that was very insightful for me, because there's different needs for presenting when you're trying to raise capital for product market fit versus innovation and maintaining this big ship, right, for corporate America.
Side note, for those of you who know the Fido, Jeff is obnoxious dorky.
Very obnoxious. And Jose will get into what the Fido is, and that's part of the course. It's really understanding how you think and how you come to this world, right? Rational, emotional, social, extrovert, introverted. That's in a summary. The Fido will get you there. Thanks, Jose, for that. He'll go into deeper of that presentation. So this is sort of just a mix of 20 years of presenting. You'll see some brands from Nestle, Tylenol, Consensus, where Jose and I worked really close to actually build the brand design team from 0 to about 12 people. So it's been a journey, but it's been a great journey. And to this day, presenting has been one of the things where I just enjoy it, and I look at it as performance. Kick it off back to Jose for some context.
So let's get going with the context. Starting with the context. 68% of you rated yourself a 2 or a 3 out of 5 in presenting. And here's what is keeping us up at night, or what keeps you up at night. You know your worth. You know how much you're worth. And I'm talking to you, Matt. I'm talking to Felice. But you haven't mastered owning your personality. For me, convincing Felice that he's like world class. Here's our goal. This is what we're aiming at. What if you walked into any room, any Zoom, just like this one, or any client pitch, and you owned it without any need to over prepare? Here's el problema, and there's Jeff with everyone. We have a confidence gap because you haven't done this enough. You have self-doubt because you have the story in your mind that I'm not enough. Whether it's I have that story, and I went to Art Center and I've worked at all these places. I still have that story, right? Nervousness, because you're not good enough, right? You didn't go to art center, whatever reason, or you didn't go to this place. For me, my scattered mind, I can't organize my thoughts to save myself. I lose focus. Silence kills me. The momentum, all of it dies because I can't go in a straight line. So the big one, this is the big one. What if the room fights back? What if the client doesn't like the direction? What if, you have an antagonist, like a hater, or you're a comedian doing crowd work, and you have somebody in the back, lobbying at you. The C-suite pressure, you're there with the CEO and the CMO and the CRO and the CSO and the CCO. There's a lot of C's. The nerves, in the room of having to present to fancy people. And how many of you have known that you were right, that the work was right, that what you were presenting was strategically right, and you still lose the room, you still lose control of the room? I'm going to hand it back to my friend Jeff to talk a little bit about the solution.
Welcome to Present Like a Master, where our goal really is to help you connect with the audience, whether big or small, achieve your business goals. Very important, right? And sort of any sort of meeting, whether it's profitable or non-profitable. And, I think part of our ethos, and, Jose and I, we love to have fun. Like, to us, it's like, we can be serious. We could do a great job in what we do, but without losing our soul, right? So to us, fun, playfulness, that's a big part of why we show up every day. And hopefully
trying to convince people we can be serious.
Yeah, it's a mix. It's a mix of both. And so let's dive into this. I'm super excited to look at the core structure. There are 9 core lessons in the overall Present Like a Master interactive course. We've sort of bucket this up into 3 phases: the setup, the build, and the performance. I just love calling it the performance because, to me, I go into every presentation, big, medium, or small size, as an opportunity to perform. And I have a decision. I have an option. I can kill it and floor the room, or I could be mediocre, or I could fail. And I choose to perform really well. Jose, you're going to say something? So let me add a little bit color briefly into these 3 phases. Number 1 is about the setup. Before you can even comprehend what this presentation is about, you really have to know the room. You have to research the room. If you're external, you got to go LinkedIn. If you're a consultant, you got to find a design champion within an org. If you're internal to a company, it's even easier, right? You can get information from who you're presenting in that room. The second part, and this is a twist for me, it's been very sort of eye-opening for me. It's the first date, right? So we all know that phrase of you never have a second chance to make a first impression. Like, that's how I approach people when I date. It's how I approach people when I meet them. That's how I approach presentations. It's all about that 3 seconds, right? To say something. There's a double C framework I like, which is compliment, and connect. If you don't know what to say, give someone a compliment. Hey, Jose, love your new glasses. Level sets it. My stress goes down. Matt, illustrator, amazing being here, because, illustrators need to be able to communicate their work, authentically, in an authentic way. So to me, that notion of the 3-second rule is about commanding authority. Comedians do it well. Politicians do it well. And I've learned that, again, whether it's a date, I just have to connect. And connecting within that first 3 seconds has been transformational for me. But I always make sure it's done in an authentic way. So that's the setup, right? And then we go to build, right? It's twofold. It's narrative and visual. I don't like to spend too much time in the visual part because that's too easy. Also, I get lost in what I want to say. So the story arc is a 6-step sort of arc that we will put together that gives you a framework, and you could use as a jumping off point in terms of how to look at that narrative, right? Beginning, the middle, and the end. Nothing new here. Fables have been doing it for centuries. Movies have been doing it for hundreds of years. So this is sort of a framework that we've created to help you build that narrative, whether it's wireframing for digital, whether it's storyboarding for illustration, for film, or for a designer, or which I've used for startups. I start with words, because I translate words into visuals. So starting with the narrative with words, and I know we did that a lot at Amazon, where it's this famous story of Jeff Bezos banned PowerPoints because PowerPoints are too easy, right? Anyone can design a PowerPoint. So at Amazon, they only present with documents, right? Docs. It's a public thing, very famous at Amazon. Words. It makes it easier to translate words into visuals. The build, and then the performance. To me, again, it's all about cadence, connection, and rhythm. And I think the most important part here, once you understand the crutch of it, is you got to learn. I learned this from my one of my senior professor at Art Center, Roland Young, and he told me that one of the most important things as not even a designer, as a human being, when it comes to presenting, is to learn how to speak like only you could speak. And that was the most powerful thing all semester in my what do you call that, one-on-one, 3 weeks. I took one thing from him: learn how to speak like only you could speak. Never forgot it till this day. And every time I perform, every time I present, I come to it 200% like only I could speak to it. That's running a show. These things after running a show are just important. Know your time. People are busy. You have to respect that. If it's a 30-minute call, it should end at 30 minutes. If it's an hour call, it should be an hour call. But also, we've all been in meetings where someone's talking and talking and talking, and he or she was supposed to only talk for a minute. So how do we manage that? That's know your time. The next module is pushback. Clients don't love the work. Clients don't like the budget. Clients want it faster, faster, faster. I think we've all heard that. How do you handle the pushback? One of the things that I like to do is you got to forecast the scenarios. We obviously want a good meeting, but every time I come to a meeting, I want to pressure test what are the things that the people I'm presenting to are going to ask me, right? Are they going to challenge the strategy? Are they going to challenge, like, did we push it enough? Endless things. Learning how to handle the pushback. Practice like an MF. We hear it every time. The 10,000 hour rule. Practice, practice, practice. One of the things that I like to do is practice not only alone, like I'm presenting. Actually, Jose and I practiced today, like we're presenting, and then Nani, who's here, I don't know if she joined. Nani actually joined like an hour and a half early, and we practiced with her, right? And she's on the call right now. So thank you, Nani, for that. That was really great icebreaker for us. And then the close. Closing is not just about thank you, presentation's done for your time. It's also about closing sets the cadence for the next meeting, right? What are the actionable next steps? So if you close without next steps, it sets up a really bad cadence for the next meeting. No one knows what to do. It's lost. So closing is not just about thank you. It's about setting the cadence for the next meeting. With that, we'll have a lot of room for Q&A. I want to hand it off back to Jose for the bigger picture.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. That was amazing. I want to add the bread and the meat and the cheese that Jeff just added. So it's 12 modules total, 9 core lessons, which Jeff just presented. There are 6 exercises, and we're going to do it over 12 weeks, starting next week. Just to be clear, we're delivering this over time. The first part, the intro to the journey. Part of it we're doing today, but we're going to talk about how it works, how to really get the best out of the course. I don't like the word course. Let's call this a movie, an interactive learning experience. The FIDO will be the second week, and we'll talk about how specifically you can use your own personality to understand yourself, but each other. So how we present really how we present really depends on knowing that the person that you're speaking to really prefers to see visuals versus, and metaphors versus like, numbers or charts and graphs. So there's an art form to that. The last week, the 12th week or the 12th module is actually a C-suite presentation. Everyone who's taking or who shows up to the live session will get to present and practice what we covered over the previous 9 modules to C-level executives that we're excited. We'll let you know who they are as the course unfolds. But then you get an opportunity to practice doing a short presentation. So that's 12 modules over 12 weeks, starting next week, August 7th. So let me share with you a little bit of what we did to do this presentation. And there are the tools that we're going to be sharing with you. Jeff talked about the story arc. And there are many ways to look at this, but if you look at a TV at a trailer, in a world, it starts giving you context, right? Where you're heading towards, hello, fellow traveler, where are you headed? Every time I say that, that's what I mean. The destination. What's the goal? What's the objective? What do we want to get done? And what are the obstacles? What are the problems, right? And then what is the solution? How do we do it? What's the process that we're going to take? The approach, step by step. And what's the outcome? The boom, the payoff, the thing you're going to get, the prize at the end of the day in the hero's journey, or the gift. There's many ways of putting this, but that arc never changes. This is the arc for this presentation with the actual content outline that Jeff and I did as we were preparing over the last week for this. Now, notice that we actually switched the process and the solution, mainly because Jeff is dorky, right? He's very process oriented. So let him present first what the 9 modules are, and then I'll present this part, which is this is how we're doing it, and the tools. If you can go to the next one, Jeff. So he talked about the performance run of show, always. Kari, you and I have worked together doing live events, many and masterfully. I'd like to say that just as a shout out. Kari is a master, right? So like that ability to work with people that have that not only passion, but experience doing presenting, it's really powerful and really fun. So in this case, we did the run of show. We actually wrote it out. What are we presenting? Who's presenting it? How long should it take? We went back and forth. Jeff is a Taurus. He doesn't like to be controlled with a little clock on the top right. I'm like, we need it because as a producer of this, I can't, if I don't see the 2 minutes up at the top right, I'll talk forever, right? So that's for me. Right. That's for me to know that I'm speaking here and keep it to 2 minutes. This is critical, learning how to do this. And, it's like, well, but we're presenting tomorrow. This takes 10 minutes to do together. And it's really a way to align and to get Jeff and I aligned on this. The next tool is super powerful, and we're developing this with you. So the data that you did when you signed up, your feedback, the questions you're about to ask very soon, all of that is part of the conversation. And Kari said this yesterday in a presentation that we were doing to a board, where she's like, hey, this is a conversation, right? Notice that we're trying to get to the half-hour mark and then go to questions right away. Most people talk the whole time and then there's no time for questions. How many people have been to those panels where designers talk forever and then there's no time to ask questions? Shut the F up and let people ask questions, have a conversation. So we're not rushing. We're simply wanting to get your questions. Your questions will determine the success of the course. This exercise was our community call last week. Jeff went on with Kevin Mooney. Kevin was about to present to extend his contract with a retainer client, and gave him some feedback, very simple feedback. I listened to Jeff, give me the context of that coaching session. And we designed a tool based on the 6 exercise from CORE, which is weaving the needs of the user and your business objectives. So basically, John, the CEO, the CFO basically doesn't want to get ripped off. He wants clarity, trackability, risk mitigation. The thing that Jeff told him is that the influence that Kevin has had on that project was he actually improved their revenue by $3 million in sales in his tenure as a CMO. As a fractional CMO at this company. So he wasn't saying that because I know Kevin is obnoxious, flaky like me. He doesn't feel that his value it's the thing to put up front. Jeff being obnoxious dorky, he's like, dude, and from corporate, put the $3 million right at the beginning of the presentation. You're not you're not coming out of into this without the track record or without the influence you've already had. So by doing that, and then in the middle having a win-win, which we blend the needs of John, the CEO, Bob, the CFO, those are their actual names, just to be clear. Kevin, the CMO in this case scenario, validate and adjust campaign content to actual customers and be measured. So to basically have a win-win, he needed to do that in his presentation. And I'll end there, and we'll move on to the next slide. So by the end of our journey together, you won't have to perform confidence. You'll have it because we've shared those tools with you and the 9 modules over 12 weeks. That's what we're promising to you. And now we land into questions and answers. Let's open it up. Unmute yourself and let us know what questions might you have. Or Jeff, do you want to share some of the questions that we got in the forum?
Yeah, let's say if anyone has questions, you can type it in as well. You can type it in, or actually we could also go into some of these too. So let's see what we talked about it briefly in regards to practice. Once I'm in a good place, and that could be half baked, 75% baked, I actually pretend I'm presenting, right? And for me, like going through it from the beginning to end is important, just to make sure the narrative is in my head. I also do something different where I don't use notes, because to me, and we'll talk about this, of course, we have to find a good way to articulate this. I leverage the content on the slide as my notes. If that makes sense. So it's the one idea per slide rule. And so if I can remember that one idea for the slide, I don't need copy for that because it's in my, it's two things. It's the narrative flow is there, but also I understand it because I created it. And then I think that one thing, depending on the presentation, I present with my colleagues a lot. I think Sarah's on this call, and she was my a great friend and manager at Amazon, and we presented all the time to each other. It didn't have to be final, but by having that connectivity, another lens helped, right? Because sometimes we're always in our head, if that makes sense. And then if you have the opportunity, present to someone that isn't a designer, right? Because I think presenting to designers is too easy. So present to someone that is a marketer, is a salesperson, is technical, dorky, I think, which is the Fido on that. We've heard this a lot of times. I don't have kids, but we've heard that notion of presenting to a kid, to a child, right? Because children take things quick. They understand things quicker, right? They don't overthink it. Shelby, I have a question. I think it's important to make sure a presentation tells a story without the voiceover.
Well, I mentioned this because think of so many times at J&J, right, where we would have to circulate the presentation to people who couldn't attend or whatnot. And just, for them to be able to understand what we're trying to present and what the recommendation is without the voiceover. Yet one of my biggest pet peeves is when people read slides and the voiceover is redundant with the slide. And so just trying to strike the right balance there.
Exactly. No, that's a good point. We in the modules regarding that, I think there's two ways. That's a good point, Shelby. There's two ways you could do that, right? You could have the truncated presentation, stripping away content, more visual for the actual presentation. You can have a secondary presentation that's like the leave behind, right? I think that Shelby, we did a lot of those.
True. That's true.
Yeah. So Sarah, Sarah and I were attached to the hip. We presented a lot to each other, and kind of like how Jose and I just flowed. I would start something, send it to her, she'd feedback, vice versa. And I think that cadence was really nice because it got a different point of view, right? I think for some of the consultants or freelancers here, I think that's some advice to do, right? If you're working alone, share your presentation with a peer, a colleague, because sometimes it's good to get someone else's perspective, right? Because I know Felice, you work alone or with a partner, and it's hard. Like I could not do that. I need sort of Sarah's input or someone else's input to really pressure test it. I get it to a place where I'm happy, and then I have someone give me input. We would also practice it exactly practice for each other to hold each other accountable and ask each other questions for the specific audience we had. Yeah. So, case in point, Sarah was managing our team. She had more connectivity to our leadership than I did, right? She managed at one point, I don't know, 12, 20 people, crazy. But she knew everything about, resourcing, where we're going next month, and how we're moving projects. So for me, instead of guessing, I'm like, can you tell me about this manager? Like, how does he think? It's the Fido, Jose. We didn't call it the Fido, but how does he or she like to be presented to? Or tell me more about the personality. These are things that we should all be thinking about, right? For us, it was easier because we had the relationship internally at Amazon. We did this at J&J. I think Shelby, Sarah, and I at J&J, we had close relationships with our marketers, our packaging folks, our insights folks. And so instead of guessing, we built the rapport with all of our subject matter expertises, right? And that helped. But I know that in some of the cases, if you're an agency, you don't have that. So what are different ways that you find that what we call design champion within the org? I mean, if you're getting hired by a company, you're probably getting hired from a marketing team or a design team within the marketing org. So it's always good to like connect to that person before you are going to make a presentation to leadership.
I'm curious, these Amazon presentations where you could only use docs, did you not put any visuals?
Yeah, so for Amazon, like a lot of what we call like monthly MBRs, and Sarah could speak to this more, strategic meetings that were drop another like one-way door ideas, bigger picture. Though, we're meeting with the leadership team. Those are all written documents with appendixes. What's the plural? Appendices, with presentations or images. When it came to like a presentation to align on design, we used Figma, but the bigger meetings at Amazon that were like more strategic monthly reviews with leadership were basically Word docs. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Sarah, but she was more involved with sort of those heavy hitting presentations. But it's on, like if you YouTube it, it's on there, right? Like there's a lot of Jeff Bezos talks about this notion of they ban it for these meetings because how many times have we been in a meeting where someone designs a PowerPoint and no one listens to it, right? Or number two, someone designs a PowerPoint in 30 minutes before the meeting, right? You can't bullshit writing, but you can bullshit a PowerPoint is the idea.
Yeah, that's super interesting. It would be an interesting challenge to see kind of, because then you got the voiceover too, which is what I'm still hung up on, yet there's words on the page and everything. Thank you for sharing that.
You have a question, and I know we can't show it here, we could, which is what type of presentation are you doing? So for example, this is a sales presentation, and I'm reading the slides mainly because to deliver the point. I'm justifying obviously right now. I'm like, oh my God, I read the slides. But it's going to be recorded, put on YouTube, etc., put on our community, put on Instagram. So that's why I wanted the beginning to be on rails, as the producer of this. I have the tendency to go all over the place, and then people are like, wait, what are you doing? What are you selling? 2 seconds.
Cody had a question. So can you talk about how you balance presenting within the notion of conversation and engagement of the group? So I think that the question there will be, it's relative depending on the actual meeting itself, right? Is it a concept share out where, you know, I'm presenting three ideas, and at the end of the day, what's needed is choose one or two directions. Is it a work session where I need input? I'm going to design it as a work session, so it's less of me and like more co-creative, right? Co-creation. Is it a final alignment meeting with a discussion? Meaning I already have a final design and I'm tweaking the hierarchy of the packaging, different small iterations on that or whatnot. So I think to me it depends on the type of meeting, who's in it. But the one thing I learned, I think, and I don't know if Sarah, Shelby, you took this class. Back in the day, we had a presentation class. I only did one. I only did one. And again, it's crazy to think about all these things that we do, you know, because I remember one thing in that meeting, and it's the thing I still use today in every meeting I am presenting. And it always comes back to the three goals. And what I learned from this class was that, you know, I could do my 3-second, like, hey, how you guys doing, right? Sort of the connection thing, right? The engagement. But it always comes back to, in the beginning, you want to level set the expectations. What are our goals? What are our goals for this meeting? And keep it simple, 1, 2, 3. Because that sets the cadence for everybody on that call. Marketing, insights people, designers. And then I prep it, right? Like, okay, these are the number 1, 2, 3 goals. Sometimes I'll preface it with, you know, it's very informal. I'm going to present it. You guys can interrupt me. Sometimes I'll ask the people in the room, do you want to ask questions after each concept? There's 3. Or do you want to wait till the end? So there's this sort of, that's a good question. There's this sort of like interaction. If I feel lost or like I don't know what to do, I'm not shy. I'll ask a question. Jose, amazing facilitator. What will you do in this situation? Boom, he's gonna talk. So whenever I get lost or confused and I'm not getting sort of any sort of engagement from a team, I ask questions. That's where like I have to command authority, right? And try to make it.
That's on stage, like one of and I'm sorry to interrupt you, to be polite.
No.
The thing I wanted to share about, here's what I've learned from Jeff, because I'm a facilitator and I just involve the audience. I'm a crowd work comedian. And for me, what I learned from Jeff, which was like, wow, he went, one thing that at first annoyed me, but now I've seen Carrie do it. And now I get it, why it's so important. I actually even did it yesterday, which is give the whole background of the thing. Because people that are on that meeting are executives who haven't been in the project. So recap, here's where we're at. This is the 3 pillars. You spent 10 minutes recapping something. And I was sitting there going like, no, get to the freaking point of the meeting. Like we need to make these decisions. But then I was looking at the executives and at the CEO and I'm like, oh, they're actually grateful that you're just doing a quick recap of everything we've gone through, and it looks valuable. It looks like wow, we're paying you well for doing a good job. So I saw that in the feedback from the presentation we did yesterday, where I insisted that we had a recap of where we were, what's the context of all this, and the funder and the one of the primary founders of the project we're on said this was really good. Like they felt good about it. So I'm very grateful that I learned that from you, Jeff. And I'm complete. And more questions. I'd love to hear hard questions, like the hard questions. We have a lot of masters here, you know, MBAs, corporate experience, designers. Let's mix it up. Matt Wood, what do you need to do? What do you need to learn? Kadi, what do you need help with? You know, you're a master presenter. Like, how can we, a bunch of flaky designers, help you?
Ask the question or a statement. Explains how first. Hold on.
Can you read it for us, Matt? Can you just share it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I said at the beginning of my presentations, I feel like it's important to introduce my work, establish my capabilities so that all participants see what I bring to the table. But my breadth of work is large and it takes time to show. That's not vanity. It's necessary and purposeful. It explains how versed I am at making custom work for my clients because later on they'll understand that I can do anything for anyone and I've shown it. Is there any way to get around this? Because I feel like to start out that way can eat up time and it's all talking about me and I want it to be about them. And so I feel like there's a mix up there.
That's a great question. I think my point of view there's a lot of variables, right? Number one, I'm assuming this is a new client, right? So the question is, are you pitching your work versus, you've already had a job or whatnot? If it's new client, I'm always cognizant of less is more. Like drill down to maybe the different type of illustrations. You narrow it down to what you think is pertinent for that client, right? Keep it simple because again, people don't digest information, too much information, right? And then also if you think you can't narrow it down, use the appendix. Use the appendix as a way of adding your work in case someone asks a question, right? So you keep it concise, keep it simple. Also understanding how long is the meeting, right? I think that goes back to the objectives of the meeting. You're pitching your work. You want what's the next thing, right? Pitching your work. You're trying to maybe the marketer or the client's going to pitch to you what they need. There's a discussion, a Q&A. So I think by outlining the objectives of that presentation, it will give you a better understanding of how much time you need to present your work. And then you just work backwards from that. But I love using the appendix to put all the information in there because let's say you have 3 different categories, right, of editorial work, illustration work, but you forget something else, put it in appendix. So if the client asks, you can go back to appendix and say, oh, I have more work. I would rather be in the position of I connect with my audience and they have questions because if they have questions, that's a good sign. That means they're interested. If they don't have questions, something's wrong. I hope that answers one point. Scott, raise your hand.
Yeah. Thank you. Really good pointers all around. I'm more in like the startup mode, doing something unusual to most people, I guess. And how much do you spend time framing the problem and flipping from a problem to solution about the concept, right? About the business model. Because you could spend a lot of time in, the greater context of the problem, the pain point specifically. There's a bunch of different stakeholders that are impacted by an ecosystemic solution, so it affects a lot of different people. When you're,
Yep.
how do you narrow it? How do you keep it clear? And how much problem versus solution do you weave into these things? Do you stay on the positive? This is what we're doing. This is what it does. These are the positive impacts.
Good question. So I'm assuming you're in this role, just to let me understand your role. You're working with startups, right?
I'm a founder.
You're a founder. Okay. And so you are working on your own pitch deck.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's, I've worked with a lot of founders and when it comes to pitch decks, I never start, especially with pitch decks. You have 5 minutes, max, right? Or 10 minutes max. But it depends. Like 1 minute per slide, right? If you look at all the pitch decks, it's 10 slides total, right? And it starts with the why and the problem solution. So with pitch decks, I never start with visuals because it's all about the narrative, right? So I don't know if you've probably done this already. Go back to, refine that story if you feel like you need to, and really focus on like every word that you're presenting. Because to me, you want to have performance. Pitching is performance, right? When you're trying to raise $10 million, $50 million, that is all about tension. That's all about attention. And everything that you put into that slide better be important, right? The problem solution, and then your product is going to solve it because of whatever industry that's at, the demographic, the value proposition. We're going to solve it. This is who we're speaking to. And this is why we are different, the X factor. And then how are you going to entry the market strategy, right? So it's a very simple, to me, it's understanding that sort of framework and then really pressure testing every slide and the flow and making sure it all is cohesive, right? Problem solution is just as important as the product, the transition, and then the product, and then why is the product different? Like, who are you speaking to? And I think what I love about that world of venture is that sometimes when you work for big organizations, there's just too much information. The business already flowing, right? So with this venture world, I think it's more specific that you really need to hone in that narrative, and the visual comes after, especially for that. I learned that when I was consulting with Nestle, their open channel incubator, and I was working with the founders within Nestle, and I was coaching, not only marketers, salespeople, chefs. They had a competition where they had people at the company compete for ideas, and so I was helping the winners come up with pitch decks and then coaching them how to present to the C-suite, all the CEOs of the CEO of Nestle USA, the CMO or the president of beverage, the president of pizza and food and so forth.
Well, it's interesting. You were inside a very specific incubator and you were really presenting to the C-suite versus like venture capital, which you might have too. But what I want to highlight there relative to the question, because I hadn't really ever I've had to deal with this recently on multiple levels, but my experience very specifically, Scott, because your project is also super amazing and I love it. I believe in it, right? I know exactly who you are and what you can execute. So I do that. So then looking at it from the outside in for myself, what Jeff said, the pressure testing is huge, and the issue becomes production. So for me, it's been about knowing how to leverage AI, not to deliver the final layout of whatever the slide is, to really hone it in, and then at the end you come in and massage it. Like in one of the promos we did for this, it said 97% AI free, which is kind of not necessarily true. The presentation itself, two designers worked on it to put it together in Figma, but the meat of it, and the content itself has used AI and a lot of inputs. I did about 15, 18 iterations of a nonprofit deck last year for the first version of the deck. Send it out, got these long voice recordings and long texts or emails from all the different stakeholders and potential funders. And I'm like, oh man, I can't sit there and update the deck based on all their different feedbacks. So I put them all into AI and I said, give me the top feedback as a report. I presented it back then to the team and to, the co-founder I was working with, and he gave his point of view as to what he wanted. And I ended up using AI to output the new version, but then manually, stripping it. And then every time you're presenting to someone different, you kind of have to adjust it. So that's why I think, startup founders or CEOs, when they're in fundraising mode, you're in fundraising mode. It's so hard to do product development and fundraising at the same time. I've struggled with it in what I'm doing right now, but luckily I have someone like Kari who's helping with the operational stuff. Also Pisces like you. I know corporate people, when I use astrology, they're like, oh my God, we'll use the FIDO or the DISC assessment, just to be clear, in the course. But I just want to say that's huge, Scott, because I want designers and creative people. If you just left your corporate job, go start a company, go start a coaching career, go develop a course. Jeff and I, we know each other for so long. We started this on a retreat in Medellin. On the plane or in the lounge, the airport lounge, we recorded, what the course idea was. I told him to tell me his story. I'm producing it like a movie. And the reality is that I think nowadays, the movie of Topanga, the movie of Eden, the movie of your life is equally as important, Scott, than the concept or the idea. Nobody's going to give the idea money. They're going to give Scott money.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Good
Well,
call to all. Lots of notes going down the whole time already.
yeah.
I want to slow it down. So the idea of a course to really cut through each section of this and have the moment to like, contemplate deeply, have some to and fro with folks in the crew. Yeah, that sounds
But
like a good idea.
And the
yeah, and I
truth
think
is
go ahead, Jose.
all right, I was gonna say, the truth is the fidelity of our ability to present, and I'm talking about Jeff and I, I'm talking about even the work Gotti and I are doing. Our ability to present has so much bones in it at the strategic level, and all these iterations of doing work with the stakeholders. Like I have this mental picture, and this is the last thing I'll say, but I want people to ask, we're about to hit the hour. We'd like to make the offer at this point because we want you all to be part of this. Like I am so committed to platforming, not platforming, that's the wrong word, to really just elevating my community. And Jeff, when we met when we were hanging in Medellin, once we started talking about what the future holds, and my experience in producing, core discovery and doing all the work that I've done, I said, let's do it for more people. So Gotti and I are doing it also. Like a lot of the people here, I want you to hear this, that the process of creating your course, and I'm going to use foul language, so please close your ears, we'll bleep it. As a good friend of mine said, your shit is your kit. Like basically your experience is your thing, so the point is that I'm making, I just want to make sure that you guys all join us in the 12 weeks. If you don't have the ability to make it to a session, because we are very busy, it's recorded, it goes into the Circle platform. Those of you who've taken courses in the platform, it's super user friendly. So, but the value comes from joining us every week, doing the exercises when you can, and enjoying the fun part. If it ain't fun,
Yeah.
Jeff,
And
go for it.
no, just to build to that, because even that example of Kevin, I don't know if he's on the call, Jose, but he's a self-taught, I think, right? He was a self-taught or like marketing strategist. And what was helpful when he presented his work, he had the core elements kind of in place. He just needed to understand how to narrate it. When I was looking at his deck and he was explaining his presentation, it was disconnected, right? And what he told me was so much more powerful than the way he was telling me on the PowerPoint. And I just had him adjust things, right? Which is put the 3 million, 34% membership rate for this golf club that you were part of. Put that in front, right? But my point to this is it's very nuanced, right? This framework is sort of a way of making it make sense. But Scott, your sort of example is very nuanced to your world. And so just to build on Jose's point is like, I think the office hours, the live sessions, I think that's where the magic happens, because we're able to have that discussion with the individual. Also office hours, right? Like the idea of like one-on-ones is something we're thinking about will be useful, obviously as we continue the courses.
Yeah, feedback was great. And so for everybody's time, we're going to stay another half hour, but let's go to the offer slide. I just want to talk about that a little bit. One of my commitments and the pricing approach, or the pricing policy, política de precios, which would be here in Latin America, is that for Latin America, we always have a 50% version of everything we're doing. Now, to prove that you do have to show that you do live in Latin America, just to be clear. And then secondly to that, this is the early bird, right? So before next week, before we start on August 7th, I'll put the link here in the chat to that if you want to sign up. You can also do it in 3 payments. So there's so you have 50% till next week. So how did they say in the infomercials? If you act now, there you go. That's how I think it goes. And then beyond that, this is really me producing and co-creating a course. Oh yes, the coupon code is early bird. Thank you. Good question. The sessions are going to be exactly at this time, same exact time. In the afternoon here in Panama at 1 p.m. They have to be for it to hit lunch. So it hits 11 on the West Coast, 1 Central, 2 p.m. East Coast. That's the early bird is the coupon code for that 50% off. The last thing I want to say about this, I want to thank Jeff for his trust, bringing him into consensus, taking him out of Johnson & Johnson. I kind of was very conscious that I was taking him out of a 10-year career at a very successful career inside one of the top brands in the United States, and consensus was just like insane. But I do believe in like that karmic roadmap that we all share, and this is exactly the right thing to be doing at this time. Why? Because presenting is like the backbone. Forget about Jeff Bezos and not using decks. That's neither here nor there. You have to do a one-pager, a deck, a web landing page. There's so many different things you got to present. And the number one thing is getting your thoughts straight so that you can present it at an airport with no deck. That's going to be like the just connection with people and tell them what you're doing. And they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. You have no visuals. You have to describe it. So thank you, Jeff, for trusting me. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. And with that, I'll be quiet about the offer, and let's go back to questions, like some hard questions about the course, especially about the tools.
There was one question I think we missed regarding who's that? I think Sim. How much time do you spend rehearsing? How do you prepare such that the presentation is powerful and on point? What are the ways to stop myself from blabbering on? Yeah, that's a good question. I think that's everyone is such a different level of presenting, right? I think the short answer is number one, practice and practice with the right people, meaning a diverse amount of people, but also get feedback. I'm gonna what is that? Sarah's favorite thing. Feedback is what is it? Blessing. Feedback. I think I got that wrong, Sarah. Feedback is something you always say. A gift. Feedback is a gift. Thank you, Sarah. Feedback is a gift. If you feel like you're presenting and you're not moving the needle, maybe you're not getting enough feedback. And get hard feedback and get honest feedback. Let's practice, get feedback, keep working on it. For us that have been in the corporate world, our feedback is presenting every day, multiple times a day, right? Like 3 times a day. Sometimes we're presenting to a marketer, a insights strategist. So that was the sort of the regiment, right, of it. But if you don't have that opportunity, I think that's where you have to get creative, present it to, again, people of different subject expertises, get their feedback, their honest feedback. But obviously the best feedback is the real feedback where you're presenting it, right? Languages, right? Right now, I'm really
sorry to interrupt you, Jeff.
No.
The question is how much to practice and how much did we practice, right? We need to be honest about that. Like we practiced this morning, like at 10, or we practiced right before the presentation. We practiced yesterday, right, while we were jamming, right? We said, okay, let's stop, let's look at everything, and let's read it out loud, like a table read. The way that I would say it is, I wouldn't be able to deliver a deck like this at the level of quality and fidelity that I can do with Jeff. And we do something that we call jam sessions. It's always 90 minutes working together on one file in the Figma, right? That's why we switch to Figma versus doing it in Keynote or doing it in a solo thing. They have group things. Google Slides is also really nice and collaborative, but Figma lets you look at it like you can like zoom in, zoom out. It's like, wow, it's crazy. But we practice a lot. And that, how to stop from rambling, I use Bing Boom Bang 1, 2, 3. So it's like 3 beats, like, module 7, running the show, the performance. That's about, the run of show and doing this and knowing that's a show. Boom, done. Then you move on, right? So that those 2 things, practiced a lot, 30 minutes at a time, did 90-minute work sessions to build it, and 3 of them, and here we are. Thanks, Matt. See you, everyone. Any questions about the course or about anything, technical about it, or we everyone's questions and the links? I'll put the link again. And the code again is early bird, and you'll get this also as an email, and you'll also get it on our Instagram, and you'll also get it on YouTube. Repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. I love your background, Ciprian. And let me know. Let us know if you want to take the course. We have 2 spots for basically people in our community that want to work on delivering the course with us. And as I think Felicia said, Jose needs an assistant because he didn't get the link on time. But we have 2 spots for that, people that are going to be working with us to deliver the 12 weeks. So anyway, I'm complete. Back to you, Jeff, in the studio.
Yeah, no, thank you for all that, Jose. Any questions from the audience?
Break
Let
the
us
fourth
know.
wall, like release the Figma and let the whole thing, how you structure your Figma presentations is really funny. Not funny, haha. It's like you have a specific way of doing it. Where every thread it's
Do I?
yeah.
I do.
Have you seen my Figmas? They're a disaster.
Really?
Yeah, you have your stuff very nicely organized. Like the
No.
root. Yeah, I think so.
Is anybody still using Mural or not?
We use
yeah.
Mural for facilitated sessions, yes. But I stopped using Mural once I started using FigJam.
Love FigJam. Love FigJam. Yeah.
Big Jam, yeah.
Yeah.
And
This thing is FigJam, what I'm looking at?
No,
This is Figma. This is Figma.
Figma.
Yeah.
So you can switch from presentation design mode to like collaborative.
Got it. So like a Jamboard slash.
Yeah.
In the same app, and you can paste from one to the other. It's nuts.
Yeah. There's a question here. Ignacio. Oh, I'm in the early stages.
Facilitator.
No, before that,
before
I'm
that.
in the early. What's that?
Go ahead, please read it. I'll
Yeah,
shut up.
Ignacio. I'm in the early stages of building my print design business. Would you say the course is mainly geared for established businesses with larger clients? Mainly geared for establishing businesses. No, I think, look, at the end of the day, it's just about communication and presenting and knowing how to set up the right presentation, manage the presentation, and so forth, right? So I think it works for all bits and sizes of sort of designers. I mean, if you think about strip it down to the bare bones of it, it's all about communication, right? So whether you're an established business or a starting up entrepreneur, I think that's agnostic of this notion of presenting, right? You could be an established business and still need to work on your presenting skills, vice versa. So I think it's
The advantage of the community too, meaning like you're gonna get to see a lot of different samples.
Yeah.
So like, what is Scott doing? I think print, or like I'm doing print every week. I have to do print the minute I wrap this up, right? Because of my role and the things that we do. The medium specifically, if you're an entrepreneur and you're starting a business, this is amazing. This is gonna be amazing. Just having access to people like Gary, who is amazing, people like Felice, just the community.
Yeah.
I think the community is worth the entry price.
And just to build that on for that point, Ignacio, like, especially as an entrepreneur, and I think Jose, you can speak to this more. It's all, how do you seal the deal, right? How do you actually pitch to get the client, right? Because that is presenting, right? Whether it's pitching to win a job, managing that conversation, or the other presentations, like you already have the job, you're presenting ideas. The skill sets remain true, right? across all those sort of different
If
presentations.
if you're moving from being a designer who is a order taker and a delivery person, to now I'm an executive or I'm a founder, presenting is going to be 70% of your job. Like to get projects above a certain threshold, you got to be so good at presenting because it takes so much time and effort and money because of the time that you're not getting paid for to pitch big projects. So if you're an agency, you're pitching all the time. So then getting to see Jeff's work, pitching startups, internal work, my work, pitching projects, like the community's work, pitching. It's all presenting. Like for those of you who know, the presentation template for capabilities from the future is based on my agency's presentation template, which is based on standard at the time digital agency presentations. So presenting is like, bread and butter basically of the trades. Anyway, I don't know if that's an answer
Oh, it
or
is.
not.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I think to build on
Gracias.
that, part of what we want to do is we've mapped out a few scenarios for presentations, right? The pitch, the divergence, the work session, the technical feasibility, landing, final alignment. So one of the things we want to do through that module is show examples, right? I think Jose has a lot of, he's owned his own digital agency back in the day and has a lot of examples for that, proposals,
I'm
pitches.
pitching all the time.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And you have tons of examples for, so yeah, there's a lot. Any final questions? Any last
There's another one. One, maybe you can answer this because you're an amazing facilitator, right? What do you think makes a great facilitator, Jose?
willingness to interrupt? No, I would say that being okay, and I said this to someone who showed up about an hour and a half ago. I said where you can actually set the level set. Well, the broader question is, both Jeff and I are kind of obnoxious, but so we're really good in the room. But facilitation is actually interactive. So you have to actually have an output or an outcome. The challenge is that people get very nervous and tense and don't want to interrupt. So the same way this presentation has time codes on it on the top right, when you see my facilitation decks, which are different than, let's say, a presentation, they all have time on the top. This exercise is this much time, right? You have to be you have to be able to control time and space. By space, I mean like the room and where people are sitting, etc. The whiteboard, if it's in Zoom, all these things. I have two screens here, where I have all the things that are happening. It's like a dashboard. So you have to let go, you have to flow. So meditation, build Burning Man camps, if you're a parent, you have to deal with a million things at the same time. But the number one thing is letting things be okay to not be perfect and letting go of that fear by breaking it right at the beginning and saying, look, I'm super obnoxious, flaky, I'm gonna mess up. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Make it a very intimate setting. Don't make it this pressure cooker that people have the tendency to do in business scenarios. That's going to make you a great facilitator. It's your energy breaking the space. I love working with Jeff and facilitating with Jeff because both of us are neurodivergent, but and if it's okay, I'm going to share the story that I've shared before, Jeff, to you. He has Tourette's, right? So he's really opening the space up for corporate people, especially new clients. We're like, what's happening? That really shakes it up. You have to think of it like a gong in a yoga class. So yeah, I hope that helps. Break the space, make it imperfect.
That's such an interesting. I never thought about that until you said that. I thought it interesting. I think also, working with you, I think 2017. Yeah, I learned. I was presenting at J&J, but I think what I learned from you as a facilitator, you mentioned energy, breaking it up is important, but this notion of interaction, right, in the physical and digital space. So I think that's some of the biggest points I learned from you was it's not about me presenting. right? It's about, I might be the one leading the conversation, but I want you to be part of this conversation too. I might be leading the conversation and saying a lot of things, but a good meeting is where there's like this balance and dance amongst all of us, right? It's alignment. It's if there's tension to get to alignment. And I learned that from you, just taking control of the room by this form of like interactivity within space, time and space.
Yeah. I'm facilitating this call, and it's a co-created experience. It's a great question. That should be a class.
Yeah,
Present
I mean,
like a master, facilitating like a master. Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
you talked about that, the facilitation, yeah. Yeah, breaking up space. Lily, yeah, that's great.
Time.
Oh yeah,
You asking for permission to control the time. We have an hour and a half. We're trying to get to do this. I'm going to go into micro machine mode. So I'm going to be, you know, that kind of idea of like, you have some corporate guys and girls, you know, on a call that are all very like, you know, nervous about losing their jobs. And some dude is coming in and like making them say the truth really fast, right? Like that's nerve-wracking, right? So you got to make it a safe space. You can say anything. It's one of the rules, right? You set the rules of the container, say anything, and I say bananas, right? I model it, and then you move towards the next step, which is, you know, asking for permission to control the time. It's a whole other course.
yeah.
Being a good facilitator doesn't make you a good presenter, actually. So I
Interesting.
myself the best presenter. I've learned so much from Jeff. I'm a good facilitator, which is different.
Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, it goes back to those like understanding the goals of the meeting, right? That's your answer. I part of it because at the end of the day, we're all meeting for a bigger sort of solve, whether it's a rebrand or pitching a new idea or pitch deck or you know landing the design for something that needs to be printed on print or packaging. So the goal of the meeting is just the meeting is a representation of the bigger picture and to you know making sure that you have clarity in regards to what the goal of that meeting is important because that also lends itself to is it a presentation or a facilitation or a mix of both. I do both. If I feel like I need input from my peers, I've done this Amazon where I turned a presentation into a work session because I felt like I needed input from my peers. And I just converted it. I said it was gonna be a work session. I need your sort of involvement, etc. Question, David. How do you quickly help highly technical team members like developers and engineers that struggle to step away from the details and think everyone is important? Hopefully, a way that doesn't involve me doing it for them. And that's a good one for you, Jose.
Yeah, that's dorky, dealing with dorky people. Dorky is not being pejorative. It's like people that are process oriented and technical. With love and patience, I have the tendency to get upset. But there's a lot of dorky, evil people here. Felice, like my partner, she's dorky evil. And so I have to learn to like be really gentle, especially like with developers, man. I remember telling like not motivational, but like a transformational organizational development coach we hired at Consensus, who was speaking at the first big Consensus offsite in Portugal. We were in the practice session and he went like full on Tony Robbins. And I'm like, yo, bro. I took him aside. I'm like, yo, bro, you know, bring it down, you know, and hear you say, bájale dos in Spanish, because you're going to get, you know, you're basically, all of them are going to like hate you from the first two words that come out of your mouth. So I said, just coming down low with, you know, your energy in your stomach, you know, like you're about to teach a yoga class and welcome them and open the space. But back to the real getting them out of their day-to-day into the righteousness of how to do it right. alignment exercises, prioritization exercises, Moscow, must have, should have, could have. The biggest thing is going to be getting them to think creatively and getting them to cut features, right? That's going to be the biggest thing. So if you're familiar with Agile and if you're familiar with, prioritizing, you're going to have to prioritize a lot.
Yeah.
And one of the best ways to prioritize is to do it based on user profile. This is it, David. Like, the first thing I tell tech, especially developers who become CEOs of startups, which is a lot, is like, hi, okay, I don't want to argue with you with what the right features are, or the wrong, you know better than I do, and you have, you're passionate about what you're building. But if we can agree on who the customers are and the users of the system are, and what their needs are, okay, they're reluctant to let go of control. And then the next step is, okay, let's define them together in the abstract. If you don't know who they are, we'll kind of begin to define them. But then for a good user experience person or designer, software designer, or whatever we want to call it, facilitator of reality, you go out and you actually find actually those people. Because there's someone that is that user even in the space, right? So that you make an agreement with the CEO or with the development team that you won't argue, features relative to opinion. It'll be relative to, does that person really need that? And I pull out data, 80% of features on any software, the first kind of foray are not used, right? You always build the wrong thing. You could have built less. That other way of doing it is being iterative, right? So I don't want to go into a lot of details. That's another workshop on Agile, software development and prioritization. But the number one thing is, in addition to breaking the energy, ask them for permission to focus. They call it, I think, in business, throw it at the wall. Like, let's talk to the wall. Don't talk directly and empirically. This is right and this is wrong, and get into an argument with a developer. You're not going to win. And then you have to get violent, right? Meaning verbally, which not a great culture. So the wall, throw it at the wall, throw it at the wall. And it's frustrating.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Jeff. How did you deal with it?
No, I think I'm gonna say what you say and hopefully try to simplify it like in a different way, cut it in a different way. I think going back to the project, what's the project goals? I'm gonna add more than goals. I feel like I'm saying goals to anything. What's the timeline? What's the work back schedule? That was a very Amazonian thing. What's the work back schedule, right? Like, if the developers want to do X, Y, and Z, but we got to launch this in a certain amount of time, right? Like a month. Go back to the process. Maybe the details right now isn't important because we got to land the design, the concept, right? Again, I'm trying to understand like the scenario, but I think by zooming out, and I think that's what Jose meant, like looking at the KPIs, the goals, the stakeholders, that there might be a hook there in regards to like, we can't worry about the details because we got to launch this in a month and we don't even have an aligned design, right? So I think it's just stepping back, understanding the different variables of the project at that time, and really understanding if, the details make sense right now. I think also just to build on that, the strategy I always use, I think someone asked the question about how do you deal with antagonists, right? People that get you. I always go back to the business. It's not about my opinion. I go back to what's the project goals. We want to improve CX. We want to increase weekly active users, monthly active users. What is the goal? We want to elevate design, because by doing that, you're giving accountability to the team. And if the team, engineers, marketers, salespeople care, they're not going to give you an answer that is misleading, right? Because it's on them. So how do you set up accountability across different stakeholders? You go back to the design brief. That's why the design brief is so important, because it level sets the goal of the project, right? And I found that by going back to the project, the timeline, budget, where we're at in the arc of the project, that gives accountability to make decisions faster.
It's all tied together. It's like,
It's all
how
tied
much
together.
you have, what's the time that you have, what are the users' needs? There's a lot of stuff. This is a lot I'll say, and I would like us to land ourselves here, is that one of the things that I have to do because I'm super ADD is I have to create a room with all the things in it, a physical room, right? But nowadays, there's no space for that. I mean, obviously, you're working from home. You can do a mural or a mural. The way that Jeff and I work, where there's this, all the stuff is in one place, helps me because there's the budget, there's this, there's Slack, there's so many things happening but I've learned to, and this goes to presenting. And Jeff, this was at EO with the CMO. I learned from her how to present, the business priorities, like growth and KPIs and all that stuff in a very simple, concise way that everyone understands, including the technical people. Because we had that problem at EO. The product people were engineers, meaning they were not necessarily, computer engineers, but they were like, sent and like, they engineered products.
Product, yeah.
Wellness
Developers, yeah.
product developers, and they were so stubborn. So we had to do remember SKU rationalization?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
made an entire, got it printed on a plotter, which is, it's like doing architecture, information architecture, in this case, for the entire product, to make sure that we cut SKUs. When I've had to do that in software to come in and kill a lot of babies, or by that I mean somebody had a baby they're really attached to and we're killing it because we got to cut stuff, or the way that the big companies do it and startups do it is they actually do layoffs. They call, instead of doing it at let's get all the engineers aligned and in the new direction that we're going, they just get rid of the people, which is a strategy for sure. But I don't know the context of your question, David. So if it's from a design standpoint, I hope that's helpful. If it's from a design standpoint, core discovery helps a lot. This is an ad for core. If you don't know core, you can go to coreismagic.com. I use core for software development.
I think we got any other questions? Those are great questions. 5 minutes away here, or 6 minutes, or
Let's do a
9
quick upload. Anybody, no order, just let's choose 3-4 people. Unmute yourself. What did you get out of today? Give us feedback. Say hello. Shout outs to, your mom, whatever you need. Just to, I'll model it. Thank you, Jeff. This was amazing. I love the energy, the dynamic. You're a master. I'm so excited to be doing this. And I picked Jeff.
Yeah, thank you as well, Jose. I'm super excited. As a few of you guys commented, yeah, this is close to home for me because I've struggled being obviously neurodivergent, someone with Tourette, someone that never felt good enough in the room. And I worked hard, and it was not easy. But it's something I want to share with everyone. Just because I also think the time is right? We talked about Jose a lot about AI, and AI can't take your presentation and skills away from you. You're going to keep presenting, and it's high judgment work, right? So the better we are at presenting our work, I think the better off we're going to be at landing those clients and doing service of the stuff that we love to do day in day. So thank you. Lily, I want to hear from you.
Hi. Let me just come on camera 1 minute.
Hey.
Hey. I thought that was really good, both of you as well. Like, it was super interactive. So it felt obviously like you were speaking to us a presentation, but I felt like I was a fly on the wall listening to a great conversation as well. So thank you so much. And when you spoke about like having your voice and speaking to your voice and presenting how you would at the beginning, I can't remember the exact line you said, but it was along the lines of like only speaking in your voice. Has resonated with me. So that's definitely a takeaway that, I'm gonna lean with moving forward. So thank you so much. Really interesting. Yeah, I loved every minute of it.
Thank you. And you're an
Really
amazing
good.
presenter too. Yeah.
I don't know about that, but I want to learn, so I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pick someone, Lily, or anybody who wants to go.
We'll go with who are we gonna go? David R.
Is that David Reyes?
Yeah, yeah, it's me. What's
What's
up, man?
up? Good to see you.
Yo. No, I just want to appreciate both of you guys for setting this up in general. Jeff and I did work for a number of years across J&J, and Consensus is the one thing that I always took away from your presentation is the sincerity and honesty in the way that you present yourself. I feel like a lot of people can turn on a switch when they do their presentations, but something about the fact that it was always yourself carrying through was something that stuck to me that I've always carried through. So just wanted to double down on that and kind of give you your flowers for a moment and just let everybody know that Jeff knows what he's doing, and has been a big influence in the way that I carry myself in my career. So just big shout out there, and thanks for setting this whole thing up.
Thank you so much.
One last person.
I'll go real quick. I've been, well, I met Jeff here in Panama before these two crazy people ran away to, was it Bogota? Is it?
Medellin.
Medellin. And then one of them never came back. But so I knew all along they were cooking something great. It's been so cool to see it take a real shape. I'm looking forward to see you on the other side and learn from you. And I wanted to congratulate you, Jeff. Yeah, like David said it, you know what you're doing. You know how I understand that you know what you're doing because you wrangled the system brand identity into this presentation, which is something I've been struggling with for the past, I don't know, what is it, 9 months? I wasn't able to wrangle it the way you did. So I'm a convert now. So thank you guys.
Thank you for that. Well, thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week. Looking forward to doing this together. Jeff,
Thank you guys.
good
Appreciate
afternoon.
it.
Ciao, everybody.
Stay on, Jose.
No. We're gonna wrap it, and we'll come back on.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
See you
It's
soon.
been nice
Appreciate
seeing
it.
you again.
You guys,
Appreciate your time.
Have a good one. Cheers.
Appreciate your time.
Rudy, good to see you.